At 2 minutes past 6 in the morning, the rotors of a Russian Mi-8 helicopter began to churn the cold air at a forward operating base in northeastern Ukraine. Loaded with a full squad of assault troops, the aircraft lifted off, banking towards Ukrainian lines. To the pilots, this was a milk run. Stay low, hug the tree line, follow the roads, and stay off the radar. But they were flying into a trap that had been set hours before the sun even thought about rising. Hidden in the pre-dawn fog, 3 Ukrainian FPV drone operators had been lying in wait since 4 a.m. They were armed not with heavy artillery, but with modified racing drones strapped with RPG warheads. They were about to attempt the impossible. Suddenly, their phones buzzed in unison. It wasn't a text message from command, but a ping from a ghost network. The operators were spread out, covering the highway, the farm roads, and the river valley, the 3 veins the helicopter had to travel. Missing this intercept wasn't an option. If that chopper landed, enemy troops would be on their doorstep. Fortunately, they had a secret weapon, an acoustic spiderweb deployed weeks prior. This wasn't military-grade radar. It was a patchwork of discarded smartphones and microphones hidden in trash cans, fake rocks, and trees. These devices were listening for one thing: the deep, rhythmic thumping of helicopter blades. When a helicopter slices through the air, it leaves a sonic footprint. Since sound travels at a predictable speed, 343 meters per second, the network could hear the chopper before anyone could see it. By comparing the exact millisecond the sound hit different sensors, the system could triangulate the aircraft's location with frightening precision. The Mi-8's twin engines generate a specific low-frequency hum, an acoustic signature that punches through fog and forests where cameras and radar go blind. Think of it as Shazam for airstrikes. While the pilots thought they were invisible, the very air they were disturbing was betraying them. The first sensor picked up the beat, a spike in the 35 Hz range, then a second, then a third. The math confirmed it. The target was within 50 meters of their prediction. The team sprang into action. The operator on the highway launched a spotter drone, while the others scrambled to calculate intercept vectors. They didn't just need to know where the helicopter was. They needed to know where it would be in 8 minutes. The lead pilot of the Mi-8 checked his tablet. He was flying blind to the electronic world, keeping radio silence to avoid missiles, navigating visually, but nature was conspiring against him. A temperature inversion was trapping sound waves near the ground, amplifying the noise of his rotors and broadcasting his position for 5 kilometers in every direction. The interception math was brutal. The helicopter was moving at 150 kilometers per hour. The drones had to be positioned perfectly ahead of it. If a dozen variables didn't align, if the wind shifted, if the battery died, if the signal lagged, the mission would fail. The lead drone operator looked at his primary weapon, a Frankenstein creation. It was a Shrike 10 frame, built from Chinese hobby parts, married to a Soviet-era PG-7M warhead with zip ties and hope. The trigger was a piezoelectric element from a lighter, a jury-rigged mechanism that had been sitting in a damp basement for months. This wasn't Lockheed Martin engineering. It was garage warfare, where a loose solder joint could cost you the war. Contact. Bearing 285. Speed 150. The voice in the earpiece was calm but urgent. The acoustic data showed the helicopter had veered off the main highway and onto a dirt secondary road. Why? Maybe the pilot saw something. Maybe he just got spooked. Whatever the reason, he was now taking the scenic route, and the fog was rolling in thick off the Dnipro River. In 2 minutes, that helicopter would be swallowed by the mist, invisible to everything but the microphones. The second operator, realizing his position was now useless, tried to move, but the cold had killed his controller's battery. Cursing, he swapped it out for a backup kept warm in his pocket. He switched to his backup drone, a machine that was inferior in every way. Smaller battery, shorter range, weaker video transmitter, but it had one advantage. It turned on. He secured a loose wire with superglue, a fix that might melt once the motors heated up, and launched. Meanwhile, the third operator was already in the air but flying blind. The fog had turned his video feed into a wall of gray static. He was navigating by mental math and compass headings alone. Acoustics has him turning west. The update came through. He nudged the stick, trusting the physics. The helicopter couldn't climb out of the fog without hitting radar, and it couldn't leave the road without hitting power lines. It was trapped in a corridor of its own making. The lead operator launched his backup drone, throwing it into the whiteout. His battery was already sagging, the cold air sapping the chemical energy faster than expected. Nearby, a Russian electronic warfare crew had detected the launch. They were scanning the airways, desperately trying to lock onto the control frequency to jam it. But the Ukrainians were using Express LRS, an open-source protocol that hops frequencies 500 times a second. It's like trying to listen to a conversation that switches phone lines every millisecond. By the time the Russians found the signal, it was already gone. At 0621, the Mi-8 burst out of the fog bank, exactly where the math said it would be. It was chugging along the dirt road like a train on invisible tracks. The spotter drone confirmed visual contact. But now came the hard part. The drone operator checked his power, 60%. The helicopter was faster than his drone. He couldn't chase it down from behind. That was physics. He had to ambush it. He had to be at a specific point in space and time before the helicopter arrived. He raced to the ambush point, his battery readout blinking an angry red 40%. Every percentage point was 7 seconds of life. He positioned the drone 5 meters above the road, barely spinning the props to save energy. His video feed was an analog storm of static, chosen because digital latency would be too slow. In a fight measured in milliseconds, you need instant feedback, even if it looks like a kaleidoscope. The Russians knew something was out there. They could see the ghost signals on their spectrum analyzers, but they couldn't pin them down. It was like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Then the sound arrived. The distinctive thwack, thwack, thwack of the 5-bladed rotor grew louder. The acoustic team refined the location. 30 seconds out, the helicopter was flying dark, no lights, no radar, deaf and blind to the threat hovering in its path. A break in the clouds let a single ray of sun hit the cockpit glass. A flash, that was it. Range, 300 meters. Altitude, 40 meters. Time to impact, 10 seconds. The pilot was looking at the road, checking for potholes, completely ignoring the sky above him. Soviet doctrine never taught them to look up for something this small. At 0624, the Mi-8 roared underneath. The operator slammed the throttle forward. The drone screamed into a vertical dive, aiming not for the fuselage, but for the path of the rotors. Suddenly, the drone was hit by the hurricane-force wash of the helicopter blades. It was like flying into a tornado. The tiny craft spun wildly, the video feed tearing apart. The operator fought the controls, his muscle memory from thousands of simulator hours kicking in. He wasn't thinking. He was reacting. The closure rate was agonizingly slow, the helicopter pulling away, but the angle was perfect. Impact. The screen went black. Instantly, the shape charge detonated. The physics of the PG-7M are simple but devastating. A copper cone collapses into a jet of molten metal, moving at 8,000 meters per second faster than orbital velocity. It punched through the helicopter's thin aluminum skin like a hot needle through butter. Within seconds, the fuel ignited. The Mi-8, a flying tank, turned into a fireball and plummeted into the field below. The spotter drone captured the whole thing. A silent witness to a historic kill. The Russian electronic warfare team was still trying to jam a frequency that didn't exist when the emergency beacon went off. By the time the rescue crews mobilized, the Ukrainian drone operators were already packing up, vanishing back into the landscape before the artillery could zero in on them. A $500 drone, built with hobby parts and guided by a network of old cell phones, had just destroyed a multi-million-dollar aircraft. It wasn't luck. It was the result of garage engineering, cold calculation, and the courage to try something that military planners said was impossible. This was the first confirmed FPV intercept of a helicopter in history, and it changed the rules of war forever. If you like deep dive and military, please don't forget, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more informative videos. Thanks for watching.